Hello, and welcome to Disability Inc., Include NYC's podcast series where we engage in honest conversations about disability with parents, educators, and people with disabilities. I am Sherelle Cruikshank, the proud executive director of Include NYC. For those of you who may not know much about us, Include NYC is the leading provider of training and information for young people in New York City with any disability from birth to the age of 26, as well as their families and the professionals who support them. As a citywide nonprofit, this past year, we assisted more than 16,000 people and reached more than 500,000 New Yorkers through communications and community outreach, all free of charge to our participants. We envision a world where there is love, equity, and access for all young people with disabilities. And I am excited today to have a conversation around seizing joy and building community, which is our new series for our podcast. And I'd love to welcome our friend, Belinda Johnson. Hi, Belinda, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? I'm ready to seize joy.
I love it. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a proud Brooklynite, born and raised and educated in the New York City Department of Education public school system. I am also a retired educator after 30 plus years starting out teaching right out of NYU, teaching for citywide programs, District 75, and ultimately retiring this past December 31st, 2023, as the Chief of Special Education for Downstate for the New York State Education Department. I am also a proud mother of a 20-year-old who learns differently and who has shown great progress. And I'm so looking forward to the future that's bright and bold for her.
Oh, that is so wonderful. You have a lot of things going on there. So, um, how old is your daughter now?
My daughter's 20, but she will be 21 in February.
Woohoo. Okay. That 21 mark is always interesting as we grow up, right?
Yes,
So when your daughter was younger, did you think about wellness or mental health?
I actually did not. I
Hmm.
think as mothers, especially when she was younger, as mothers, we learn to put ourselves in the background so that we can put our children in the foreground, whether or not they're typically developing or whether or not they have learning challenges. We tend to put them forward. And I did that, especially as she was young.
Hmm.
When she was
Interesting.
younger, yes, I did
I'm
that.
sure that resonates with many parents, whether your child has learning challenges or different disabilities or abilities or not. As parents, we tend to do that. Um, so how did you take a break when your daughter was young and you were working?
Well, I knew how to use my time creatively. When my daughter was in preschool and had to go to work, I would use my lunchtime to kind of decompress, to kind of do what I like to do. Maybe taking a walk, maybe reading, or actually most times listening to music, closing my office door and listening to music. And that allowed me to use my time and my time effectively so that I would be able to decompress to meet the world again.
Okay. Decompressing is really important. Looking back, what would you tell your younger self about your journey and taking care of your daughter?
It all works out in the end. You're not going to know everything. You're going to make mistakes. You have to give yourself grace. I
Mm.
used to joke a lot that you need to have an educational fund as well as a fund for therapy, because no matter how much you think you're doing the right thing, the way that your child may perceive it may not perceive it as the right thing, or what, in my case, she wanted from me or expected of me. So I think I would tell my younger self, it's going to work out. Take a deep breath, be more present, and relax into your motherhood. Relax into your motherhood. And lean on your friends and identify those individuals that you feel may be doing it right, and just ask for help.
Those are all great pieces of advice. Leaning on your friends. Can you tell me a bit about the importance of having a community and how that helps you to find joy or find peace?
I do not know what I would have done without my sister friends. I became a mother late in life. Although I was in the education field, and I taught preschoolers all the way up to ninth grade, it's quite different when you put on the mother's hat. So I had to make sure that I had a community of, first, women that loved me, women that would um, love my child, but also women that directed me or put me in the right direction. Didn't criticize my choices, looked at my choices and maybe provided an alternative, but always honored what I tried to do. But I also had a friend that said, Belinda, you can't do it that way. And
Okay.
also was very realistic. Because as mothers, especially mothers of children that learn differently or with disabilities, sometimes we don't see what's right in front of us, right?
Mm,
Because
okay.
we are looking for it's not a bad thing, but we're looking for those strengths. But sometimes we look for the strengths without looking for areas where the child may need additional help. So you need a good community to say, Belinda, you at least for me, there's something else going on here, and you need to pay attention to that. So building community is so very important.
When would you say that you realize the importance of building community and taking care of your own wellness?
Well, I think when my daughter was a bit older, and I didn't I didn't need to run around to this provider, that provider. And I took a deep breath and I said, okay, all right, you're exhausted most of the time, Belinda. You need to rest. You need to continue your adult connections, because if you don't do that, you're not going to be your best for her, and she deserves the best of you. So I had to decide, I don't have to do this, I don't have to do that, I don't have to run to this provider's appointment, and if I cancel it, she's not going to fall apart. I'm going to be able to rest that 45 minutes and pick up the next day. So that's when I decided. When she was a little earlier, young, I mean older, and her skills were growing and improving, I decided, okay, she has a good foundation. Now you need to feed yourself. You need to feed yourself in order to move forward.
So it sounds like you did a lot of prioritization.
Yes,
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And we're kind of toggling back and forth because you have an older child now, but sounds like when your
I
daughter
do
was
it now
young.
either. I do it now as she's older too. Right?
Okay,
I
well
do it
that's
now as
good.
she's older too, because she's older, um, she does not need me as much, and I had to, one, wrestle with that.
Mm,
And then tell myself it's okay. That's what you're doing. That's what you've done all the years leading up to this. You want her to be independent. Take a
right.
step back, you can relax. So
Okay.
I say this is important, and maybe not this activity is so important for her, but so I do it now.
So when she was younger, do you so or for parents that have children at a younger age where life is crazy hectic, where there's just so many things you feel like you're being pulled in all these different directions, you could have other children involved. Do you think that it's possible to find moments of joy or moments of peace even in the midst of those difficult times?
I certainly do, but you have to be intentional about looking for those things, moments of joy, moments of peace. And it doesn't have to be major things. It could be a quiet apartment when the children are all in school and you're sitting at your breakfast table and you're having a cup of warm tea and honey and you listen to the quiet. That's a moment of joy, a moment of gratefulness, gratitude, or walking to the subway and then you feel the warm sun on your face. You can seize that as a moment of joy.
Mm, okay.
It doesn't have to be these big, gigantic, blow your mind moments of joy. It's the small things, but you have to aggressively look for them. You have to wake up and say, okay, I am going to look for moments of joy, moments that provide peace, moments that provide happiness. Um, but you have to be intentional about it. You have to be intentional about it.
That's important. Being intentional sounds like managing your expectations
Yes.
and prioritizing. Can you talk a little bit about that? How do you manage your expectations when we all know that we want the best for our kids? You know the struggles that you are facing. How do parents how can they do that?
Well, I think managing your expectations comes with time and wisdom. And it comes with looking at one, how far you've come, and looking at where you want to go. And then I think having conversations with trusted individuals who can tell you, who can one, point out how far you've gone, how far you've come, and help you think about where you want to go and help you come up with a simple plan to get there. It's almost like when you think of travel training, right? When you think of travel training a child, you have a starting point and an end point. There's a lot of different points in between. So you need to map that out realistically and build upon your successes. She got to the train station. She walked from my apartment to the train station on her own without any issues. That's one step. So it's managing your expectation, is looking at how far you've come, where you want to go, um, having people be able to listen to you, help you plan, develop a plan of action, and just also realize you can't get it all done. You're not going to be able to get it all done, right? And that's okay. That's okay, especially for women and it's okay if you can't get it all done. You are not perfect.
And it sounds like flexibility plays a huge role in that planning process
Yes,
around um, giving yourself grace, as you said in the
yes,
beginning, and also adjusting that plan. If that plan doesn't exactly work out the way you want it, adjusting that plan until you get to where you think you found a good place.
right. adjusting the plan, and also be open and flexible to changing it because you have new information, right? You have new information, um, and you need to be able to change your plan. You don't want to be held hostage to a plan because you think it's going to work when you have new information in front of you. I mean, that's that's not that's not allowing you to grow nor your child to grow.
That is so true. I think that that is sounds a lot like a strategic plan for an organization, right? You plan out 5 years, but in those 5 years, so many things happen that change the course. It doesn't change your mission, but it does change the course of the direction that you that that,
Exactly.
that you want to take
Right.
because you want the best outcome. Sounds like you can do the same thing in life. So
Yes.
people don't often look at life in that way, and sometimes are so engrossed in the moment and the situation and the obstacle that it's hard to see past that. Um, what would you recommend, or what are some of the mechanisms that you use to kind of see past the obstacle um, and appreciate the smaller wins?
I mean, that's a wonderful question. I think what are I think I learned to do that after periods of extreme exhaustion. I think, you sometimes you're forced to make adjustments, right? Sometimes your body, your mind, these external obstacles will force you to take a moment to make those adjustments. So you have to be aware of what's going on with you, right? You have to allow yourself to you have to be with yourself and to listen to what your body, your mind may be telling you. And then take a moment and ask yourself, okay, what's going on here now? There's no reason why, not no reason. What are the reasons that I feel that I am stuck? What are the reasons that I feel that I'm so exhausted? Why can't I give another moment to anyone else? What is happening here? And just take a moment, maybe write it down. Um, again, speak with a trusted friend, but pay attention to what's going on with you. I think that is, I think that's a good way to approach it.
You said something earlier which I found interesting about taking a moment to go in your office and closing the door.
Yes, yes.
And I guess that can be applied to when you're at home and closing your bedroom door,
Oh, yes.
going in the bathroom and closing the bathroom door. But I think the bigger picture is finding a quiet space for yourself. Is that right?
Yes, definitely finding a quiet space for yourself. And most of the time, it's probably our bedrooms, right? And closing the door and closing the door. Yeah, finding a quiet place for yourself.
So, do you have hobbies now that you're retired? Do you have hobbies or interests that take up your time?
Well, I'm back in school. Education is extremely important, so I'm
Okay.
back in school, going for a doctorate degree.
Okay.
So it became an a opportunity because I followed my mind to retire at the right time, and then it opened up space for this new opportunity. And
Okay.
sometimes that's what you need to do. You need to be able to let go of one aspect of your life so that the next one can open. And that's what happens. So that's really my focus right now, is to finish strong with this particular doctoral program.
And when your daughter was younger, did you have a hobby or interest that you gave yourself time for, that you gave yourself grace to embrace?
Yes, I'm a church girl. And I used to sing on the choir when she was younger, or I would run a church group of women, and we would go out and 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 talk about those things that would inspire us. So my it wasn't necessarily a hobby, as more of a calling, and what I chose to do with my life, or maybe I was chosen to do it. And yeah, and go to
Okay.
women's conferences and women's um, groups and things like that, which was very
Sounds like
fulfilling.
all ways that you find community, that you're building community, but that sounds like community for your wellness and mental health, as opposed to
Yes.
community for actually your daughter, which is important. A lot of parents sometimes are not willing to or want to share what's happening in their life. Um, Although 10 chances to one, they're probably many other people are experiencing the same
Mhm.
thing. Well, what do you see the value in, like, parent support groups or women's group in your churches, or somewhere that there's community that is probably experiencing similar things as you. Do you think that that's important for family members to look for, especially when they're feeling particularly stressed? Or what are your thoughts?
Yes. Yes. I think finding community is so very important, because it allows you to know, one, you're not by yourself. Two, there's someone there in your group who may be able to say a word that allows you to think differently about your circumstance, because they have gone through it. Or
Interesting.
someone that can just listen to your complaining and not have to offer a solution. Sometimes we don't want a solution. Sometimes we just want to vent. And so when you find community, when you go to those support groups, support can mean just listening without judgment, right? Just being there, being present without judgment. And that's so important. Um, that's why parental support groups, any type of support groups that you find yourself in, is so very important, because it fights loneliness, and you're thinking that no one else is suffering or experiencing what you experience. So therefore, I'm on my own, and this is going to overwhelm me, and I'm not going to have any success with this. But going to a group will allow you to see that you're not by yourself, and you too will make it to the other side.
Making it to the other side is important. I know that sometimes parents tend to feel guilty about taking time for themselves um, in the midst of whatever they're dealing with. What do you say to that? Or what do you say to that parent that is experiencing guilt?
I say, feel it, but don't get stuck in it, right? Emotions are given to us as windows in how, one, we are feeling, and then also um, indication of what we need to do next, right? So if you are feeling guilty, feel it, but don't stay there. Try to look at, why are you feeling guilty? right? And try to identify what could you do next that will make you feel less guilty, right? I used to, I tell you, I used to feel guilty about not having a homemade meal on the table for my daughter when she was younger. But I'm not my mother who used to do that. I'm not a great cook. So I gave it to having McDonald's. And guess what? She survived it. So, we have to look at, I think, feel the guilt, don't stay in it, identify strategies to get out of it, and then get out of it.
Sounds like you have to know yourself. Sounds
Yes,
like you have to know yourself and what you're experiencing in order to help talk you into a different place.
yes, yes, that's absolutely true. And we are always evolving and always um, learning different aspects of ourselves. So just be open to every day looking at yourself anew. You're creating different patterns of the way you might respond to a circumstance. So evolution
Interesting.
is so important. Yes.
I love that. You talked a lot about planning, so let's talk about the elephant in the room. Planning for when mom is not there. How do parents start to navigate around that thought process?
Well, that's difficult.
It is.
So when I think trusting in what you have poured into your child, right? Trusting in the lessons that you have provided for your child, and that those lessons will hold fast in most circumstances, right? But also knowing that life is can be an adventure, and that, well, not can be, is an adventure, and you cannot anticipate every scenario. You just simply can't. And sometimes you have to have faith in what you have done, and you have to allow your child, with and without disabilities, to make their own path. It's hard, believe me. It's hard.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I have three grown children that their path is not always what I would have planned for,
Mhm.
but got to give them the latitude to
Right.
grow into their own path. So I
The room to
definitely,
grow. Hmm.
yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely do understand that. Um, and what about um really making provisions and thinking about what life looks like if you're not there to provide that guidance, to say do this, to help make decisions? Do you think planning ahead is important for parents to do?
Yes, I do. And this is where the community comes in, right? So you have to have trusted people that also share your values, right? That if something were to happen to you, they would be willing and able to step in. And it could be more than one person. I would suggest two or three people that will be able to form the community to step in. Um, so, yes, planning and speaking with people, um, and being really concrete about it. Um, and so that's why community is so very important, because you're not always going to be there. There's a
So
time,
true.
yeah, when you were not always going to be there.
So true. So true.
And then also speaking with your young person about the people in your life who will do what if when you're gone, right? Because they also need to be a part of the planning, especially as they get older, or even you start younger, but especially as they get older, you want to you want to include them in the conversation?
Well, this has been very enriching. I love this conversation, but our time is coming to an end. So, is there anything that maybe you want to share? Any piece of advice that you did not get to mention earlier, or something that you, a little tidbit of seizing joy, or an experience maybe that you want to share of how you've seized joy to end this very rich conversation?
Well, I think that by modeling how we are intentional about looking for those joyous moments in our life, can only teach our children that also have challenges, disabilities, that they too are worthy of seizing joy and happiness, um, as they make their way through this world. We are our children's first models. And if we can model to them that everything is not doom and gloom, that you have to be intentional about going out there looking for the joy that fills your spirit, and you are worthy of that, I think that's a wonderful legacy that we can give our children.
I love that. That was wonderful. Thank you, Belinda, for sharing your experience, for sharing advice for ways to find joy. And I know that at least one person that listens to this conversation will be able to move forward with at least one of those pieces of advice that you gave. So thank you for talking about seizing joy and building community with Include today on Disabilities Inc. podcast. And everyone stay tuned for our next episode of Seizing Joy, Building Community. Take care.